Wow, why are they doing this to Joey? What's good? It's Woog. We've got Tszyu, 24 wins and 2 losses, taking on Joseph or Joey Spencer, 19 wins and 1 loss. Tszyu is the son of a legend, son of Tszyu. He's also the former WBO Junior-Middleweight champion. I remember really wanting to see Jermell Charlo when he was the undisputed champion at 154. I wanted to see Jermell Charlo versus Tszyu. Jermell Charlo ended up taking a really long layoff, and Tszyu built one hell of a reputation after having a string of fights in his hometown in Australia and winning all of those mostly by knockout. When he came to the States, he had one uninspiring, but it was a win against Terrell Goucher. He won it by decision, and then while waiting but also not waiting for Jermell Charlo, he knocks off Tony Harrison, a former champ, in the 9th round, blasts out Carlos Ocampo in the 1st round, and then beats the brakes. I mean, it was a competitive fight, but he put a beating on Brian Mendoza. So at this point, Tszyu is looking pretty golden. Like, a lot of people were skeptical, including myself, when we were watching him fighting in Australia, but over time, he kind of proved like, no, this guy is absolutely legit. He reminded me a little bit of a, I don't want to say a poor man's Canelo, but there are similarities in the style. Very economical in punch output, kind of a patient hunter, and just making every punch count, not to mention having really good knockout power. So then they made the fight Keith Thurman versus Tszyu. A lot of people are thinking, damn, what the hell are you doing, Keith? You want to fight this guy? Well, Keith Thurman pulled out of the fight due to injury. They replaced Keith Thurman with Sebastian Fundora. Sebastian Fundora was going to be fighting Bohachuk, but instead they made Bohachuk versus Brian Mendoza, and Bohachuk really put a bad beating on Brian Mendoza, and then Sebastian Fundora gets the call to challenge Tszyu. And this is the fight where Sebastian Fundora in the early rounds, and I thought Tszyu was winning up until this point, but Sebastian Fundora inadvertently elbows Tszyu on the top of the head, splitting the top of his head, just causing a cascade of blood that ended up pretty much plaguing the entire fight. Sebastian Fundora ended up winning a split decision, but it wasn't really an indictment on Tszyu's abilities. Like, we all saw his face turn into a bloody mask instantly. Like, I actually thought Tszyu was going to get stopped like in the couple of rounds after that, but Tszyu ended up digging deep and ended up making it a pretty competitive fight. He busted up Sebastian Fundora's nose, and again, before the cut, I thought Tszyu was looking like I expected him to look against Sebastian Fundora. So yes, that was Tszyu's first loss, but I still looked at Tszyu as being like a top 3 guy in the division at the time. But then he challenges Bakram Murtazaliev for Murtazaliev's IBF 154-pound title, and this was one of the biggest shockers of 2024. Murtazaliev dropped Tszyu early, dropped him often, ended up stopping him by the 3rd round. This was a 3rd round TKO, and for anybody who gave Tszyu a pass for how the fight against Fundora went down, the unfortunate cut, the blood, and all of that, were forced to then say, well, what the hell was that, Tim? After Murtazaliev absolutely destroyed Tszyu. And it should also be mentioned that this was the first fight where Tszyu, Tszyu's legendary father, was in attendance since, I believe, like maybe his pro debut, but it had been years since Tszyu was in the corner, let alone in the building, when his son Tszyu was fighting. So I do want to add that distraction into the mix here. But look, I still look at the performance as the performance. Tszyu got wrecked by Murtazaliev. So a lot of people are wondering, okay, so where is Tszyu? Like, he was showing all of these signs of being a really good, really legit, perhaps even elite fighter, and he's now coming off of back-to-back losses, where the second of those 2 was, again, a really brutal and fast stoppage loss at the hands of Bakram Murtazaliev. It might have only been 3 rounds, but I'm sure for Tszyu, it felt like 13 rounds. He was getting hit hard and often, but I'm still looking and thinking of Tszyu as being a pretty top-notch fighter, at least somebody who, you've got to be a top dog to handle Tszyu, which is why I'm wondering, what the hell are they doing putting Joey Spencer in the ring with Tszyu? I mean, I guess if there was a time where a lesser fighter would have a chance at Tszyu, now would be the time. But I look at this as being a recovery fight for Tszyu, and I look at Joey Spencer as being leagues below where Tim Tszyu is. Even if Tim Tszyu isn't at his best or isn't what he was 1 year ago, I don't look at Joey Spencer as being anywhere near the ballpark. And that was evident in Joey Spencer's step-up fight against Jesus Ramos. I remember when they made that fight, I was thinking, what the hell are they doing putting Joey Spencer in the ring with Jesus Ramos? Look, Joey Spencer, no knock on him. I mean, he was a prospect who they were kind of building up, and I never saw what the actual merits of that were. I don't know why they were putting Joey Spencer on a lot of these fight cards and kind of acting like he could possibly be a big deal. I never saw it in terms of his actual in-ring performances. He was beating much lesser guys, and yeah, I mean, he was handling his business fight over fight. But I not once, I didn't look at him as being an elite nor near elite guy. Whereas Jesus Ramos, I looked at him as being a potential champion in the near future. I mean, super young. I mean, both of these guys, Spencer and Jesus Ramos, were very young, but I didn't look at them as being anywhere near the same level. And that was, again, evident when they actually fought. This was not a good night for Joey Spencer. He was, by like the third or fourth round, it was clear that Ramos was far superior. He was pretty much setting him up and hitting him with hard shots at will, started to bust him up, started to stop him dead in his tracks. And then it started to become a question of, okay, when are they going to stop this? Because now Joey Spencer is just taking a beating. No, he doesn't continue to get knocked down. He got dropped more than once, but Spencer was showing a lot of toughness as he was getting busted up. But they ended up stopping that fight in the 7th round. And I was really wondering, like, what was gonna become of Joey Spencer's career? Like, were they gonna try to put him back on that path to start building him up slowly, maybe more slowly this time? So he wins his next couple of fights, again, against lesser guys. But now they're throwing him in the ring with Tim Tszyu, and I'm like, yo, like, who's taking care of this guy? I mean, he's gonna get taken care of financially, I'm sure, but if anybody has plans for this guy in the future, why would you line him up against a Tim Tszyu who needs this win, by the way? Like, Tim Tszyu is not gonna be messing around. Maybe he won't be as confident as he's been in past fights because he was in that total wreck against Murtazaliev and the wreck before that against Fundora, but this is still Tim Tszyu we're talking about. So either they think that Tim Tszyu is so diminished after that loss to Murtazaliev that Joey Spencer has a shot, or they're just cashing out on this kid and basically they know that this guy is not the goods and you might as well make a lot of money against the top dog when you've got the opportunity without having big plans for the guy in the future. That's the only two scenarios that would make sense in my mind, because look, the betting odds here have Tim Tszyu as a -600, which tell you, by the way, how bad that beating to Murtazaliev was, because under normal circumstances, I think that this should be a fight that Tim Tszyu is like a -1000. I think that he should be like a 10-1 favorite against Joey Spencer. But I think that maybe maybe those are how big the question marks are around Tim Tszyu. But I mean, quite frankly, I would be surprised if this fight goes a distance. I would be very surprised if this fight is like competitive. Like, if Joey Spencer wins like more than one round, I would be like, damn, okay, Joey, because I don't think it's gonna happen. Like, I think that this should be a total domination and a stoppage, to where after the fight, it looks like, yeah, they probably shouldn't have matched these two guys up together. Like, that's kind of how I'm looking at this one. And yo, I've been wrong before. I've been way wrong before. Look, I didn't think Sandor Martin had a shot at beating Mikey Garcia when they first made that fight. That was before Martin versus Teofimo Lopez. We didn't really know who Sandor Martin was, and he ends up pulling off an upset over Mikey Garcia. And Mikey Garcia, on paper, betting odds wise, was a much bigger favorite against Sandor Martin than Tim Tszyu is against Joey Spencer. But again, I think that these odds are too close. I'm thinking about just putting money on Tim Tszyu, almost nearly knowing that Tim Tszyu is going to come out with this win. Like, it would be disastrous if Tim Tszyu can't beat Joey Spencer. Like, that would tell me Tim Tszyu needs to hang it up. That's how bad it would be. But again, I've been wrong before. Like, I sure as hell didn't see Bruno Saras knocking Jaime Munguia out. Like, I don't even think I did a preview video for that fight, because I was like, okay, what's the point? This is just the next guy, the next low-level guy that they're putting Jaime Munguia in there with. And we ended up getting what we got. But I've seen Joey Spencer quite a few times. Like, this isn't like a Sandor Martin situation where it's like, you know less about the guy, then he just kind of sneaks up on you and he ends up being a lot more talented than you thought he might be. I've seen enough Joey Spencer to really have a good feeling that he doesn't belong in the ring with Tim Tszyu. So yeah, to me, this one is a mismatch. I don't know how else to put it. I think Tim Tszyu stops him. It might be in the middle rounds, unless Tim Tszyu's a little bit gun shy and it takes him a while to get cooking. But I don't know. Like, if this is anywhere near the same Tim Tszyu that we've seen in the past, I think Tim Tszyu gets him out of there by like look, before the knockout against Murtazaliev, I would be surprised if Joey Spencer made it to like the 5th round against Tim Tszyu. I really would. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and I'll say, okay, Tim Tszyu might not be exactly where he was at before these back-to-back losses. So I'll say Tim Tszyu via 7th to 9th round stoppage. And again, they ended up stopping the Ramos versus Spencer fight in the 7th round. So yeah, I think 7th to 9th round knockout for Tim Tszyu. I wouldn't be surprised, quite frankly, if this is over within 3 rounds. Look, this is a pretty interesting fight weekend coming up. We've got Joe Joyce versus Filip Ergovic. We've got Janibek, who's making another title defense against another unknown challenger. We've got another fight card with Richard Torres Jr. I mean, that's a prospect where I'm still wondering if he's the goods, but he's about to fight Guido Vianello. That is a even matchup. I'm really excited about that one. So look, I'm gonna be doing a couple other previews this week, but I had to get to this Tim Tszyu one because he's the former champion here, and I was just surprised that he's only a 6-1 favorite over Joey Spencer. So yeah, I'm going with Tim Tszyu via stoppage. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. Where do you see Tim Tszyu right now? Like, it might be a bit of a mystery, but I think that we're gonna more or less see an approximation of the Tim Tszyu that we're used to seeing. And I still think, I might be proven wrong, but I still think Tim Tszyu is a top 5, top 7 guy in the division. Yes, the 154 division is way more stacked than it was 2 to 3 years ago. Like, I mean, we haven't seen Brian Castano since that stoppage loss at the hands of Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo's been out of the ring for 3 years, even though he announced that he's gonna come back, not only come back, but come back to 154. So look, this is one of the best, if not the best division in boxing. It's about to get even better if Jermell Charlo really re-enters the mix here. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.